I didn't know I needed a new jointer until this one came into my life. This Bridgewood BW8J 8-inch joiner came up on Craigslist for a steal, so I went to check it out. Turns out I knew the guy selling it. I paid the full asking price and brought it home. I tried to unload it by myself, and at 400 pounds it got a little bit away from me, and I know I should have called a friend. But it was about to rain, my daughter was napping, it was the time to move in. I know I've talked about this before, but man, I love tractors. I got it down to the shop and set it next to my old jointer. What a difference. The first thing that needed to happen was to run power to the beast. The old one runs off 110 volt, and this one needed 220. Rather than running wire all the way back to the panel, I decided to rob the 220 feed off of my table saw, since I won't be running both tools at the same time. This should go without saying, but turn the breaker off before messing with this stuff. Once I had the power run, I turned the breaker back on to test it out. Since I was already in electrician mode, I decided to add some more lights in the shop. I get these 4-foot LED shop lights from the bulk warehouse type stores like Sam's Club or Costco. I added some keyless sockets with these little screw-in adapters since the lights have plugs on the end, but I still wanted to be able to screw in a light bulb if I wanted to. Then it was time to take care of the rust. Some WD-40 and 300 then 500 grit sandpaper works really well. I want to take a minute and address the exposed wires in my shop. The building code in my county only requires the wires to be anchored to the wall with these clips. I could have run EMT or conduit, but I'm comfortable with my wiring situation, so do whatever makes you feel comfortable in your shop. Okay, now the fun part. I needed to get everything coplanar. First, I needed to get the Infeed table and the cutter head level with each other. I used a 4-foot level and feeler gauges to get it dialed in to within 3 thou. On dovetail ways style joiners, there are these Allen head gib bolts you can adjust. I got lucky and didn't need to shim anything on the cutter head. Once the Infeed and cutter head were aligned, it was time to get the Outfeed coplanar to the Infeed. The process is similar with the feeler gauges. Raise the tables over the cutter head and start finding the high and low spots. I got the tables in line, but I needed to shim between the table and the ways near the top due to a twist. A soda can is about 2 thou in thickness. The previous owner had shimmed the bottom, so it seemed they had the exact opposite problem I was experiencing. Success. Everything is coplanar to within 3 thou, which is about as accurate as I can get since I'm not using a machinist straight edge but rather a 4-foot level. I'm happy with it. Squaring the fence was pretty straightforward, and then it was time to set the knives. I made a jig inspired by Brian over at Garage Woodworks. I'll put a link in the description. I used a dial indicator to find top dead center on the cutter head. The jig uses a stop for the edge of the table and magnets to hold the knife flush with the table so you can align the cutting edge with top dead center on the cutter head. It's a pretty slick design. I like to mark the first knife I set with a Sharpie mark to help me keep track of which knives I've already set. The jointer didn't have a guard anymore, so I made a few phone calls and found one that would work. It just needed some assembly for the spring. Then it was time for a test. I used a pretty out of whack piece of white oak. Dead square. I'm really excited about this addition to the shop. I hope this was a helpful video, and if it was, I hope I've earned your subscription. Thanks for watching.